files uploaded by the user have been fully loaded. Searching won't provide additional information. He extraído el contenido del documento correctamente. A continuación, te presento la traducción al inglés del texto completo. To determine Jewish origin or other lineage through DNA, it is possible to use genetic tests that analyze autosomal DNA and specific maternal and paternal lineage DNA. These tests compare your DNA with databases from different ethnic groups, including Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews, to identify matches and genetic patterns. How can I know my true origin? Is it possible to find out through DNA? The answer is a resounding yes. There are several genetic tests to investigate my origin. These tests are based on autosomal DNA analysis. This type of test analyzes the maternal and paternal segments of your DNA and compares them with multiple ethnicities. If the result shows that your segments are identical to another ethnicity, it means you have that origin. Thus, DNA can reveal your true ethnic origin in a precise and reliable way.
Los gitanos y judíos son hermanos de verdad. Han sufrido juntos tanto a través de la humanidad. En 1492 la historia cambió. Y en 1499 el dolor creció. Los nazis quisieron borrar su luz, pero no pudieron vencer la cruz. Nada podrá destruir este amor. Dios cumplirá su promesa al fin. Paz y amor brillarán como el sol para el pueblo gitano y judío al fin. Siglos de persecución no lograron separar dos pueblos que en sus raíces saben cómo perdonar. La esperanza nunca muere, sigue viva en el corazón, como un fuego que ilumina cada nueva canción. Los nazis quisieron borrar su luz, pero no pudieron vencer la cruz. Nada podrá destruir este amor. Dios cumplirá tu promesa al fin. Paz y amor brillarán como el sol para el pueblo gitano y judío al fin. Nada podrá destruir este amor. Dios cumplirá su promesa al fin. Paz y amor brillarán como el sol para el pueblo gitano y judío al fin. Judío al fin.
Cientos de gitanos y
Hundreds of gypsies have taken the autosomal DNA test, comparing their DNA with Jewish DNA. The results have been astonishing. In some cases, the percentage of matches with Jewish DNA has reached 90%. Some try to discredit these reports and forcefully claim that gypsies are of Indian origin. If someone believes they are from India, we must respect that. But we also ask for respect for those of us who believe we are Hebrew Jews. It must also be said that genetics does not support the Indian origin. Scientists have conducted studies showing that gypsies do not have Indian DNA. There is certification displayed on screen stating that the mitochondrial DNA of gypsies does not exist in India. The scientists who conducted the study are Alberto Gomez Carvalho, Jacobo Pardo Seco, Lura Fachal, Ana Vega, Miriam Zebe, Nazaret Martinon Torres, Federico Martinon Torres, and Antonio Salas. These 8 scientists, in their genetic work on the Gypsies, stated that the most characteristic Romaní haplotype in 5A1b, which constitutes 15% of the total Romaní mitochondrial DNA of Indian origin, is extremely rare in India, at just 0.001%. Therefore, according to the aforementioned algorithm, this haplotype would not contribute to the proportion of Indian ancestry among Romanís. Thus, it cannot be more conclusive. Another way to study your origin is through haplogroups. A haplogroup is a group of haplotypes shared with other people. If our haplogroup matches that of others, it means we have common ancestors, in other words, the same origin. Our DNA contains millions of data points. Among them is the story of who our ancestors were. Each ancestor left their genetic mark, which was passed down and has now reached you and me. Haplogroups and haplotypes are composed of alleles or segments in various parts of our cells. These segments or alleles come in different shapes and have not changed since our earliest ancestors. They are identical. How do we know they have not changed? Samples have been taken from discovered skeletons. For example, in some caves in the Judean region of Israel, Jewish skeletons believed to be around 3,000 years old were found. The U3 haplogroup demonstrates that Gypsies are not of Indian origin. All genetic studies make clear that U3 is from the Middle East, and none indicates it is of Indian origin. An article published in Scientific Reports titled Origin and Spread of Human Mitochondrial DNA, written by Nature.com, states, haplogroups U7, U1, and U3 are largely restricted to the Near East. U4 and USA Europe. Note the phrase largely restricted. This means they do not exist outside that region. In other words, U3 is not found in India. Haplogroups and haplotypes, made up of alleles and segments, or a gene, are shaped differently, straight, twisted, or otherwise. These act as genetic fingerprints. They are unique and not identical unless we share a common ancestor. Depending on the degree of kinship, we will have more or fewer identical segments or alleles that do not vary even by 1,000th. Scientists label these with numbers and letters, calling them haplogroups or haplotypes. Now we ask, if the tests are so conclusive, why haven't some scientists told the truth about the Gypsy DNA results? The answer is, when a scientist conducts a genetic study, it must go through a control process. Artificial intelligence reports that the CSID controls genetic studies in Spain. Regarding control for publication, it says, in the context of genetic studies that are later published, there is no single entity granting final approval. Scientific publication, including genetic studies, follows a process involving peer review and acceptance by the scientific community rather than a formal permit. However, publication is subject to ethical and legal considerations such as privacy and participant rights. The article is evaluated by expert reviewers. They assess the quality, validity, and originality of the work. The journal then decides whether to accept the article for publication based on reviewers' recommendations. If accepted, the article is published. If rejected or not approved, the scientist does not get paid. Thus, they must conform to guidelines set by those scientific bodies. And those organizations require, if the researcher wants to get paid, to state that Gypsies come from India. A genetic study about Gypsies published by the New York Times in 2021 notes, part of the appeal of Romaní DNA to geneticists lies in the assumption that the group has been genetically isolated for hundreds of years. However, the authors argue that many researchers rely on biased samples from isolated populations while intentionally excluding data from Romanís of mixed ancestry. This article refers to a lack of ethics and intentional exclusions of mixed ancestry. That is, if DNA samples showed both Gypsy and Jewish results, they were excluded from the genetic study, meaning that only those matching the intended narrative were included, which falsely represented Gypsy origins. The chart shown on the left shows Jewish haplogroups. On the right, Romaní haplogroups. It clearly shows they are the same. As can be seen, the haplogroups are identical. Thus, we can say with complete certainty that the studies done on the Gypsies have hidden the truth. Not only hidden it, they have lied, claiming DNA proves Indian origin. But as we've read, a group of scientists in scientific journals, such as PLOS ONE, have said that Indian origin for the Gypsies cannot be supported by DNA evidence. Explore the fascinating genetic connections between the Gypsy, Romaní, and Jewish communities. Review these comparative DNA tables while relaxing music plays. What do respected rabbis say about DNA? Figures like Rav Dinovich and Rabbi Eliyahu of the Sanhedrin have discussed the possibility that the Romaní people are among the lost tribes of Israel. May this exploration inspire reflection and dialogue within faith communities. Blessings.